We are
Nastasia Filippo,
Lorenzo Alberti,
Francesco Ricci,
Martin Balaban, and this is
Kunst and all.
Meet Kirsten Kemp, a former professional ballet dancer who became a high-performance mindset coach who's redefining what it means to thrive in the dance world. Kirsten trained at the prestigious Houston Ballet Academy and is a graduate of the University of Utah. She went on to perform professionally with the Oklahoma City Ballet. Today, Kirsten is the founder of The Confident Dancer, a global platform and coaching program dedicated to helping dancers overcome mental blocks like performance anxiety, perfectionism, and self-doubt. As an international speaker and coach, she's worked with students and top-level professionals, empowering them to perform with confidence, clarity, and freedom. She's not just teaching a technique, she's transforming mindsets, and today she's here to share how confidence can change everything in dance and beyond. Kirsten Kemp, welcome to Kunst and all.
Welcome back to another episode of Kunst and all. With us today is Francesco and Martin. Hi.
Hello.
Hi, guys. And my dear, dear friend and special guest, Kirsten Kemp. Hi.
Hi, I'm
Hello,
so happy to
Kirsten.
be here. Thank you. Hello.
Well-
I'm excited for our conversation. It should be fun and I hope also very helpful and encouraging for the dancers listening.
Yes, definitely. I'm especially excited to have you here, Kirsten. I've known Kirsten for I think more than 15 years now, like
Or
2010.
17 years.
Yeah, we met in a
I was
summer
15, I think. I was 15, you were 14, and now I'm 32. So it's been a long time.
school. Yeah, we met in a summer school in Houston, and we were roommates actually, and got really close and kept in touch. And I'm very, very excited to have you here on our podcast.
Yes.
Yes.
What a full circle moment.
Yes,
we-
how beautiful. How beautiful also to see that you two met when you were really young and then you had your careers and you developed and you grew. So
Mhm.
good.
I always knew you would
Yes.
do something like this. She always liked helping
Really?
people. Yes.
Oh my gosh, that's so nice to hear. It's really funny. I feel like in so many people's journeys, whether it's in ballet or in other fields, their younger selves really did know some of what their path would turn into, even if it wasn't conscious. And other people can see it sometimes before we fully recognize it. Because I
Yes.
realize
Yes.
now I was often the dancer who was really focused on trying to be positive, even though I didn't know anything about psychology. I was trying to be positive, and I would love to talk to my peers. And anytime someone was discouraged, even when I was injured, I found myself wanting to go encourage other people and just cheer them on. And so I joked years ago before I became a coach that I kind of wish I could be a professional cheerleader. And now I feel like that's what I am. It's funny.
Sometimes it's a skill, sometimes it's really a
Yeah.
talent that we have. It's our personality also. We cannot do anything with that. We just have it.
Mhm.
It's good.
I
Yeah.
think we can get right into it and let our listeners know a little bit about your journey and talk us a bit through your transformation of how you went from like a dancer into like the confident dancer and how that
Yes.
how that was inspired.
Yes, absolutely. So, from my dance journey, just to give a very brief overview of that, I grew up in a very small studio in South Texas that was not a professional school, and I just loved to dance. And as it is for many of us who grow up in those sorts of environments, I just tried my very best to get into the best summer schools possible. And then I eventually worked my way up into training at the Houston Ballet Academy year round. So I was there for 2 years. And from there, I went to the University of Utah. I studied ballet there. Then I danced at Oklahoma City Ballet briefly. And actually, how that ended up transitioning into becoming or building The Confident Dancer, which is my business now, is actually, I guess I should describe a little bit of what I do so that it starts to make sense.
Please do.
Basically, I call my business The Confident Dancer, not just because that's what I think I am, though I hope to be a good example of what I do. But really, I wanted to give an image of what I want other dancers to know that they can be as well. So, as a coach and as a speaker, I really specialize in helping dancers to overcome common mental challenges like performance anxiety, self doubt, low self confidence, things that really often impact our well being, our enjoyment, and our performance, of course, so that dancers can really, like I say, master the mental side of dance and perform to their fullest potential with joy. So that's always my goal in my work. But how I got there is I could say so many things, but to really try to distill it down, is that there were a lot of moments, especially when I was in my second year at the Houston Ballet Academy and beyond, where I realized in that second year I was having a very difficult time. I unfortunately was working under the direction of a teacher whose way of teaching ended up being very destructive for me personally. I felt like my confidence was really at an all-time low. I felt so much self-doubt. And like I went really quickly from being a very confident dancer when I was young, who just always wanted to practice. I wanted to push. I wanted to practice my pirouettes after class. I always wanted to go for more. And I had a lot of self-belief. Um, I went from that and being very excited to perform to not being able to really get through a basic combination without messing up because I had so little trust in my ability to perform well, to execute steps, to remember choreography, that I was so in my head. It's like I was messing myself up. And also during that time, I had very intense performance anxiety because I was so fixated on this idea of I can't mess up, I can't mess up, I can't mess up. And then, of course, like that's all you're thinking about, messing up. And it feels so likely. So I saw such a dramatic change in myself for the worse. And then I went into a different environment after that where I was very encouraged. People saw the potential in me. I got opportunities to do soloist and principal roles right away. And I completely saw my mentality change. And it's like I became that younger version of myself again, but with better technique this time. And I just saw how dramatic the change was. And I
Mm.
noticed that I could just attribute that change within myself to my external circumstances. But I knew I wanted to be a professional dancer after that. I knew that I couldn't just rely on my external circumstances to help me attain that level of confidence that I wanted to sustain so I could keep improving and performing well and enjoying it. So that was really an experience that started to get me curious about the role of my mind in my physical ability and performance and also my well-being. Then taking a step forward to the time when I was at Oklahoma City Ballet dancing professionally, I was having such a great time there. It was really a dream come true. I loved it. Unfortunately, I got a pretty bad knee injury. And so during that time where I was recovering from knee surgery, that was really when my perspective completely changed again on my own capability as a dancer. Suddenly, I felt so overjoyed to the point of tears when I could do bar again, even if I was like, I had a bent knee and I was probably kind of turned in and my legs were low. I was so happy. And I was also so in awe of my peers as I watched them. I realized that I saw all that they could do for what it was. I saw that it was amazing, that they could even jump. And I had that perspective because I could hardly walk, you know? Yet that experience pointed out the stark contrast in the way I was seeing my peers versus the way they were seeing themselves. And it actually infuriated me. I couldn't
Mm.
believe it. I saw so many dancers that I would just sit there and I would enjoy watching. And I thought, wow, they're so amazing. They're so strong. And then they would come off from the side and say things like, oh, that sucked. And it
No.
started to make me so angry because I just wanted to be able to dance. So, long story short, that is when I really felt like, okay, someone really needs to be talking about how to resolve these mental discrepancies in our ability. Like we don't see ourselves clearly as dancers, and it affects us badly. And I wanted to start talking about that. And I also knew that so many of my peers, and myself included, we knew about therapy as a resource, which can be a great resource. However, myself and so many of my peers did not pursue ongoing therapy because the kind of goals and challenges we wanted to bring up were very difficult to address with someone who is not a dancer. So it's not that
Yeah.
therapy is bad. It's just also not as goal oriented as coaching can be. So that's where I really started to feel like, okay, there's an opportunity here to meet this need and to fill this hole that I'm perceiving. And since I ended up needing to take a break from ballet for that time due to my knee injury, that's really where I got connected with the opportunity to do a coaching certification, and my path really just began. And it's almost like, yeah, I got connected with it almost in this like very miraculous way because I didn't know it was a profession that was real. Like life coaching kind of sounded dumb, if I'm being honest. I had heard about it. But then once I learned more and I realized, oh, you can have a very specific niche and you can also add on additional trainings and skills to really specialize in what you do to help people with mental change to accomplish certain outcomes. I fell in love, and I just felt like it was something that I was meant to pursue. And it's turned out to, I think, be true. So that's the story of
That's
how I
good.
got to where I am.
I actually want to ask you a question about if there were any specific turning points that shaped your perspective and confidence on performance, but you clearly stated those. So I actually have a little bit of a different question. Do you think that those points were necessary for you to realize this? And do you think that those turning sort of points are a necessary stepping stone to achieving confidence or not?
Mm.
Can you explain
Yes.
it to someone, or do they have to go through it? Is what I'm trying to ask.
Yes, I understand. So I'd say that in my journey, I believe it was necessary for me to have those challenges so that I became curious about the role
Mhm.
of the mind in my outcomes and my experience. But as we know, no one's journey is the same. So my journey, I would say it's not prescriptive. Like someone else needs to have a knee injury to realize that they don't see themselves clearly, which I'm sure you're not suggesting. But I would say that actually an interesting insight that I have from working with so many dancers who some are pre-professional and they're in their mid to late teenage years. Some are early professional dancers. Some are very established professional dancers. And what I do notice is I actually, I really enjoy working with dancers who are in that late pre-professional or professional part of their journey. Not because I can't help or I don't enjoy the ones who haven't yet undergone certain struggles, but rather I feel like I can use the awareness so much as a coach that each dancer gains from understanding, like, oh my goodness, I used to feel really excited to perform, and now I feel so anxious. I dread it. I enjoy actually, not that they're going through that. I wish they weren't, but I think there's something important about them being able to have that contrast in their experience to realize, our progress and our confidence is really not linear at all. It's a whole journey. And the Dunning-Kruger effect really shows this. I don't know if, I'm sure,
Yes.
Francesco, you know about this, but it's essentially this graph that was created for people who don't know, that really tells a story of our experience of confidence and how it relates to our journey of building competence, like skill. We often think that competence, skill, and confidence go together in this linear path of growth, but it's really the opposite. So in the Dunning-Kruger effect, it's known and that there's often a a peak of confidence that happens very early in our competence journey, meaning usually when we don't have very much skill as dancers, that's when we are the most confident because we don't know what we don't know. And we're just so excited to be able to dance. And then we hit this valley of despair and like insecurity when we often become pre-professional dancers and we see, oh my goodness, why did I ever think I was good? There's so much to learn. I have so far to go. How will I ever make it? And then slowly the graph starts to go upwards, slowly as we gain more competence, because over time we realize, okay, in the beginning, yes, we were not as good as we thought, but also in the pit, we were not as bad as we thought. And we learn over time to develop much more reasonable expectations of ourselves. And we're able to slowly make more peace with reconciling that, yes, we do wonderful things and we do have great skill, but we will always have flaws. And that's such a journey to work out. So to answer your question, Martin, I do think there is a certain level of perspective and growth that is available to us when we have been through that pit and we have experienced some very emotionally and mentally challenging things as dancers. Because if we choose to use that as a growth opportunity and as an invitation for more inner growth, like growing our confidence from a true place, or working through our insecurities, and which can be hard work. There's some really beautiful outcomes that can come from that if we don't stop when we're in the pit.
Right. So what you're saying is that there are certain pits that are sort of inevitable, but what we do when we're in those situations is our choice, and we can,
Yes.
or like that we can, makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah, it's so true. And actually, for a lot of dancers I work with who are now very competent, and it's obvious because they're in a professional company. You can't technically, objectively be a bad dancer and be in a professional company. Like, it's too competitive. It just can't be true. Yet what often happens, and I think a lot of dancers listening can relate to this, is our view of ourselves can get stuck in the past from when we were in the pit. Like, I can tell you that my view of myself in some ways did get stuck, and frozen in time from that time when I was 19 years old and really experiencing performance anxiety. And it's reversible. Absolutely. It takes inner work and professional support or journaling and really working through your own view of yourself. But that's what I really enjoy helping dancers through, is reconciling the insecurities that are coming from past experiences. They're old, and helping them to release those things or those limiting beliefs about themselves so that they can actually appreciate all the skill that they have now and be confident about it.
It's really like you're carrying like the trauma from your past into at least I felt it
Yeah.
because I've changed a few companies. And then every time I started, I was like, okay, we're going to start fresh. But then these things start to creep in. The more, and then you start doubting yourself, and with
Yeah.
the whole pressure of, getting into this, I want to talk a bit about perfection. And I'm sure, I don't know, for example, I was a very stubborn dancer in my beliefs. You can say that was like the stuckness that you're talking about, that my mindset was very like, it has to be this way, it has to be perfect. And I was wondering if you're able to relate at all in this with this concept.
Yes. Oh, yes. I think ballet attracts a certain type of person.
Yeah,
That
who isn't?
it's both.
I was also thinking
Yeah.
that.
Oh, yeah. It has to be. It has to be the case. There are certainly variations in personality type across ballet dancers. We're all unique humans, but are there common themes? Absolutely. I mean, you have to, I think, I don't want to say you have to, but it does make sense that this certain type of person that ballet attracts would naturally lean more towards perfectionism, because there can be this insatiable drive towards perfection, excellence at best, perfection at worst. This desire to overcome a challenge and this feeling of confidence and satisfaction when you master something, this obsessiveness, attention to detail, image consciousness, like being image focused. Um, these are all very common traits in what I see in dancers, in addition to being very prone towards rigid thinking, like black and white type thinking, good, bad. I need to be better, not the worst. Um, you know, those are, I need to do it right, not wrong. I make
Yeah.
one mistake, the whole thing is bad. There's so much rigid thinking that I think there's nature and nurture there. Like, yeah, the type that tends to fall in love with ballet might naturally exhibit those traits, but then also the ballet world and ballet training certainly reinforces it. Like, you make one mistake and then that's the thing you hear from your teacher, that you messed up and you need to not do that again, instead of like, the overall, it was very good. You did these things that were really nice, and then they'll be like, okay, we need to save time. Just here's the correction. And it causes our brains to just focus on good, bad, right, wrong. So that is a challenge to overcome if we're going to have mental well-being and confidence in our journeys. Like, we can't have that type of mental rigidity, which even is research shows that it's mental rigidity is very related to all sorts of issues like anxiety and depression and challenges like that. So anyway, long story short, absolutely, I relate. I think so many dancers, if we're honest with ourselves, we do feel a tendency to go towards perfectionism. But the good news, I always like to present some good news and some encouragement with all this, is that I truly believe that with every strength, there's a dark side to every strength. And sometimes we're just experiencing some of the dark side of something that's also a strength. And we're so focused on the dark side, like the perfectionism, that we forget it's just perhaps a misuse or a going too far of something that can also be very good, which is this dedication, this focus on excellence, and a desire to be our absolute best that we can be every day. So I think it's something we can ask ourselves, like, maybe I'm doubting myself a lot, for example, but could that be just a misuse of a strength, which is really caring about doing a good job? I'm being very perfectionistic. I should stop doing that. Well, maybe you could be a little kinder to yourself. Perhaps, again, you just care so much about doing a really, really good job, but it's just going too far. So I like to have that view about some of these things.
Kirsten, you've compared excellence and perfectionism. And I have heard that before, but I don't think many people are aware of it. Could you just briefly explain the difference between the two?
Yes, yeah, definitely. So perfectionism, I think it's really self-explanatory. It's defining success as actual perfection. Flawlessness is the goal. And it's this very rigid way of thinking about what our goal is. Compared to excellence, excellence is a drive to, or a desire to be your best within reasonable confines, reasonable expectations. You can recognize and have some mental flexibility in defining what success looks like for you. Maybe your best for a performance is that you really fully embodied the character and you were so present with that character, or you had the most power in your movements that you possibly could. Compared to a perfectionistic mindset towards a performance would be, I expect myself to make absolutely no mistakes. It literally has to be the best or better than all of my rehearsals have been. Again, no mistakes. See, it's this very unreasonable, very rigid way of defining success. So that's the difference.
Thank you.
Kirsten, I have a question about this. Could it be also that maybe perfectionism has to do a lot about how we look at ourselves or what we do, but based on what we see around us. So because basically we compare ourselves based on what is the media, what other people are doing. So we try to reach that goal, that level. And that's when I think perfectionism, maybe it can be applied. Whereas the excellence that you're speaking about, it's maybe something that we are trying to be the best version of ourselves based on our instrument or what we have. So not comparing to other people, but if my body and my artistry allows me to do 100, I'm going to reach my 100, no matter if it doesn't match exactly the Kirsten 100 or Martin or Tazi 100. I don't know,
Yes.
but maybe I think, I don't know, it could be also a good mindset that, that you focus about what is your best that you can give and not based on like where everyone else is. Because I think sometimes in dance practice and in ballet companies, there is always this like good competition, which is like, it's you take inspiration from, and then there is the bad part, which is like you're trying to be like someone else,
Yes.
which is always that balance that needs to be reached, no? No.
Yeah, I totally agree. That's a great way of putting it. And actually, it reminds me of a approach that I often take when I'm helping clients individually, especially for those who are auditioning. This is the time of year where I support a lot of dancers in helping them to really be confident for their auditions so they can perform well. Part of that process, and this aligns with that view of excellence rather than perfection, is helping them to very clearly define what success means to them based off of their top traits and skills. Like, what are their favorite aspects of their own dancing that really make them them? What are the qualities artistically that when they really fully embody those qualities, it feels like, they're really giving people a sense of their essence as a person when they dance that way. So I
Yeah.
try to help them be very clear about what are the main traits that they bring that are really of high value. And then I help them to define success accordingly by saying, okay, if these 3 to 5 traits are really what make you very special, you're very good at them, how can maybe success for you in this audition is getting really clear on how you want to present each of those traits and then following that plan, those traits. And it gives the mind a focus on a way to define success that's actually personal. It's not
Exactly.
vague. It's even unrealistic. It's not unreasonable. It's based off of something that's real and they already have it instead of something that they're just like striving towards, but can never reach. Like you can never be someone else and you can never be perfect. And we all know this, but it's very hard to let go of defining success in that way unless you give yourself something else that works. And that's a huge part of my approach as a coach. I don't tell people, like believe in yourself and like stop caring what other people think and just like embrace that mistakes happen. I understand that we care about these things for a reason. And unless we give dancers a different thing to focus on, their mind will always go back to the
Yeah.
old default mode. English, wow.
I also have a question. How does external validation or external opinions play into this? Because sometimes even you could, I don't know, be super focused on like, okay, this is my success. I know what success is to me. And then suddenly a teacher comes in and completely destroys that. Or it doesn't have to destroy it, but can challenge it at
Yeah.
least.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great question. So one thing I often like to say about external validation is I understand that it does play a very important role in our journeys. And to, again, just tell dancers to stop caring so much about what people think doesn't work. And it's really invalid advice because our career outcomes are partially dependent on what people think about us. So it's ridiculous to think someone could just completely stop caring. It's all about putting external validation in an appropriate place in your mind. I like to validate dancers that it's okay to care It's okay to desire it. It's okay to feel good and enjoy it when it does come your way. However, we need to again develop a very clear confidence for ourselves and a clear self image, like a way of seeing ourselves that is empowered. And that practically, to get really clear, it means knowing what you do well and knowing what you appreciate about your own dancing and really owning that. It doesn't mean you think you're better than everyone else. It doesn't mean you think you're perfect. It just means you're clear about what you bring and you take pride in sharing it. You're not claiming it's better than anyone else. That would be arrogance. Arrogance is confidence that relies in a very fragile way on being better than other people to feel good. That is actually it comes from insecurity, not real confidence. So it presents as confidence, but it's totally fake, as I'm sure you know. But anyway, going back to external validation, getting feedback is a normal part of our development that forms our view of ourselves. However, as dancers, I think we often develop in a way that causes us to over prioritize the role of external validation in telling us how to see ourselves. So, what I like to guide dancers through is developing a sense of self that's based on their own experience of their dancing. Like, how does it feel in your body? What are the artistic choices you like to make when you have freedom? That shows a sense of self. What are the traits you can identify? Like I said, you know you do well. That starts to form a sense of yourself as a dancer that is separate from the feedback you get. And hopefully the feedback aligns. Sometimes it's even nicer than what we think about ourselves. Sometimes it is very different in a hard way compared to what we think about ourselves. But when dancers already have a clear sense of self and they've also taken time to resolve some of their own insecurities, it's easier to receive hard feedback and to take the parts of it that are perhaps valid. Like maybe they said something that you can actually improve on, but they just said it in a really not nice way. Okay, so you can take the part of it out that was not said well, though of course you're still going to feel things. It doesn't mean you're like, I don't feel anything. Like, of course, it's normal to be upset, but then you can just sort through, okay, what am I going to leave out and not affect my view of myself? And what am I going to take in, even if it's hard, as an opportunity for growth? It leads to more inner stability. And then also, when you set your own goals as a dancer in class, in rehearsal for your performances, that also helps us to detach from external validation because you have your own thing that you're trying to accomplish. And you're not just dancing for someone to tell you good job, because that's, as you know, very dangerous. You can do the best dancing of your life and leave everything out on the dance floor, to be really cheesy. And they could say nothing and maybe loved it, but they said nothing. And maybe that would just crush you if your goal was to hear good job at the end. So we need our own goals as well.
It's fantastic. Thank you, Kirsten. I totally agree. And I have to say myself, I lived through all this, what you just said. I lived through all of it. The part of not being confident, or like to be overconfident first, then crashing down, and then like, having very, let's say, insecure moments in my career where I felt like I couldn't do anything, with the anxiety of going on stage or dance, everything, the whole path, until then searching again my own goals, what you just said at the end. And it's so important, and it does change a lot how one like perceives, also how I perceived, I talk for myself, how I perceived my job. I start to enjoy actually going to work and doing my stuff, because I knew that I was focusing on the things I wanted to focus on, and I was doing it for myself because I had pleasure doing it, and it was all for making me grow and for experiencing some things or not. And also, as you said, part where you say like sometimes you receive some feedbacks and you learn, for me was like to build a shield with some filters. So because you know what you know what you are, and you know what you're capable of, and you have confidence in that thing, and then sometimes you do receive some feedbacks which are like, all right, okay. But then it's exactly what you said. It's so true. It's like you learn to say like, all right, that was not nice, but I get it. I sense that. So I'm going to just take that. You know what I mean? You just take the filtered part, which is also a very beautiful way of then working, because the process becomes easier and becomes a bit lighter. So you don't get stuck on those, the tone was this way and the thing was that way. It's like, all right, we cannot control all this, because it's going to be, we cannot control how people react the whole time. So
True.
we must be more efficient in ourselves and take what we can get and go on with it. Thanks. It was
Absolutely.
great.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm both happy and sorry that you relate to all those things.
I relate to all of it. All of it. I see myself, my path, my career. I see it all. Like when you were speaking from the beginning until now, I see it all. And actually, it's very interesting to have, of course, Anastasia, but Anastasia, let's say, is closer to me on my career side because we're like in the same age. But it's nice to have Martin here because Martin is very fresh and is very young, and I love that we can have, different perspectives nowadays, how we have this interview. Martin has his own experience. I have my own experience. Nastasia has her own experience. You have your own experience. So it's nice to exchange this. It's so great. I love it.
Yes, me too.
So who's next?
I wanted to ask, Kirsten, I would love to hear a bit more about like your specific approach that you use to help dancers find more confidence.
Yes. Yes, I'm happy to talk about that. So my approach is something that I've built over years and years, and also really deeply thinking about what I really wish I had as a dancer. And I still dance, which also really powerfully informs my coaching because I live out to the best of my abilities what I guide dancers through. So I can deeply relate and empathize to every person I talk to because I'm still in it myself in a way. So my approach is, I'll say a few things about it. First, I see challenges like self-doubt and performance anxiety, perfectionism, self-criticism, comparison. I personally see those things most often as a symptom, not the problem itself. So what that means is when we treat these issues as the problem, it's very common that coaches and all sorts of different practitioners, therapists, whatnot, everyone has their own approach and there are many different methodologies to accomplishing change. But what I've personally seen is that it's very common to take something like performance anxiety or just more nervousness than one might want and to say, okay, that's the problem. Let's just find a solution quickly to reduce that problem, to reduce their experience of it. So try a breathing exercise, to reduce that feeling. And breathing techniques, visualization, positive thinking, positive self-talk, these can be useful tools, but my approach is to say those are tools you implement after you actually address the root cause of why is that coming up in the first place. And one thing I love about being trained in neurolinguistic programming is that NLP was one of the first methodologies I learned about and experienced for myself. That there are many that do things like this, but I like how NLP very efficiently has this approach of getting to what is the root cause of the presenting symptom, let's say. So, for example, with performance anxiety, for many dancers, that performance anxiety is their body responding in a way that's saying something dangerous might happen. So that suggests there's some sort of unreconciled past experience that turned into a belief, perhaps, that they can't trust themselves to deliver a good performance. But then there's also maybe this added layer of expectation, like, I can't mess up though. I don't trust myself, but I also can't mess up because I might lose my job. That would understandably create this sense of terror before going on stage that we need to look at, okay, where did that belief come from? And I love how NLP and a few other different methodologies I'm trained in can help me to identify what that root cause is with a dancer and resolve it in a meaningful way so that they no longer feel, let's say in that example I gave, that sense of I don't trust myself. so that then the anxiety doesn't come up every time. So you don't need a breathing technique to calm yourself the heck down because we've resolved where it's coming from. So that's where I always like to start. Like if a dancer tells me, I don't feel very confident, I like to ask them, what do you feel is taking away from your ability to feel as confident as you want? And very often that exposes an insecurity that started when they're like 12 and they're starting to get serious about ballet for the first time. Like, I feel like everything goes back to 12. I was just joking with someone about that. And so then I can help them resolve that view of themselves that got stuck in the past, like I said earlier, so that then after we resolve some of the root causes of their presenting challenges, then we build on strategies like I said earlier, identifying your strengths, and I teach some very practical steps to help them tap into a mindset of confidence. But I do that after I address what has been pulling them away from feeling the way that they want. Or yes, I love to teach visualization. It's a really, really great tool. But I find that if I just jump right to giving dancers visualization techniques, if they don't trust themselves anymore and they don't think they're a good dancer, well, then when they go to start visualizing, they have a really hard time not imagining the worst possible outcome. And it's a discouraging experience for them. So that's a bit of my philosophy that I'm really passionate about. And I've seen such amazing results in dancers from taking this approach. And one of my favorite things is seeing how encouraged and validated they feel that they're not crazy. And it also, I remember for myself when I needed help, but didn't yet understand this could be a resource, I thought that positive thinking should be enough, that maybe I just haven't thought the right thoughts hard enough, or maybe I haven't tried hard enough. Maybe I just wasn't a good enough dancer. And so I thought because I was struggling with self-doubt and things like that, that maybe something was wrong with me because positive thinking wasn't enough to help me. And I find so many dancers feel that way. And so for me to be able to tell them, hey, positive thinking and such is helpful, but it's not the first step you go to when you're experiencing challenges like yours, and nothing is wrong with you. So let's just implement the proper helpful approach and we can resolve this. It's doable. And I think that just releases so much self-judgment that dancers have for themselves when they
Yeah.
struggle.
Kirsten, I'm curious to know if beyond, of course, the technical aspects, for dancers that you're helping, do you feel also they improve something about themselves, like some, I don't know, identity or life choices, if something changes also in the way they are as a human, as people, regardless, of course, of the focused help on of course, what they're doing, which is what you do. But do you see also their transformation in their lives or in other areas?
Yes, actually, it's really cool because I've done this work for about 8 years now. So I've had the opportunity to work with dancers and then they retire. And then I've gotten emails from dancers after they've retired and they've told me, your coaching really helped me in ways that I didn't know at the time. And now I'm becoming a nurse or something. And I just feel so much more belief in my ability and a lot more trust in myself to go for it. I would have been very scared, or I would have felt regret about my ballet career that would have just followed me. But now I feel good about what I did in ballet and I'm excited about this next thing for me. So that's just one example. But what I've seen very often is that when dancers understand the fundamentals of what confidence actually is, that it's really just a state of inner assuredness or security. It's also related to, if we're thinking about situational confidence, when we have a challenge and we feel confident in our ability to do it, it's because of that self-efficacy aspect of confidence, which means self-efficacy is the belief in your ability to essentially do what you're setting out to do. Yeah. So there are different aspects to confidence. And when dancers understand this and they know how to embody it, and they also see that it's a really important way to carry yourself through life, you just get better results in general. And how that works is like when people embody a confidence in themselves, they're more clear in their communication. They're more direct in being honest about what they want and what they think. in a kind way. It can be kind at the same time. They're less apologetic. So they're more honest about what they want for themselves and more willing to take risks and go for it. Like, this can change someone's life trajectory. And I've also seen, last point on this for myself, that, and I teach this very often, that the way we feel towards ourselves is the way we are constantly teaching other people to feel about us. So if you walk around like just feeling like, I don't really have anything special to say, like, don't listen to me, like, I'm not really that good at this, or I don't trust myself. Like, if you're emitting that kind of energy, and it's not even just like an energy spiritual thing, like, it comes out in our body language, and we have mirror neurons in our brain that causes other people to feel a little bit of our inner state when they're interacting with us. So it's a very practical thing, not just like woo woo, though it can be that too. When we understand this, we then can choose to feel more ground ourselves in more confidence, and then that literally causes other people to place more confidence in us. I've seen that when I started to become more confident in my dancing, I got better feedback. People assumed I was a reliable dancer. People assumed I knew what I was doing. They assumed if I did a triple pirouette, it was on purpose, not a fluke. Compared to when I was like, I don't know. Like, they assumed I didn't know what I was doing.
I relate also with this 100%. But would you say, Kirsten, that is the fear connected to that feeling of being not confident and being over apologetic? Because I believe there is also fear in it. Because I believe what you said is really true, that perhaps the becoming confident, of course, now we're talking about, dance and dance culture and things like this, but it is somehow, once you learn it, it becomes like a mechanism. It becomes like a dynamic that you know how to put on for yourself. So then you can apply it, of course, for your life and for everything else, because you know how to, you just know what you're worth, and you know how to believe in yourself. And that, I think, it eliminates a little bit the fear, because for me it's like not being confident aliments fear. I don't know, I imagine. I'm not 100% sure. I didn't read anything about it. But somehow I see it like as a they go by hand in hand. You know what I mean? The more you're not confident, the more the fear comes up. The fear of not being at the level, the fear of the people not liking you, the fear of not making the next role, not making your job, and blah 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 blah. Not making your family happy for all the sacrifices they have done. And it's it's a build up of fear one after another that it becomes like a big mountain sometimes.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Fear, it's so gripping and so powerful. But I will also say that sometimes fear and confidence can also coexist at the same time. And it might seem like, how? But fear that relates to insecurity, like, oh, am I good enough? Or what if they see that I'm really deep down not deserving to be here? That kind of fear is very different than when you choose to put yourself out there because you are practicing confidence, you are practicing courage. That kind of fear where you're like, I'm challenging myself to do this. I don't know how it's going to work out. And so I feel nervous. So that's a little bit of fear. I'm a little scared or a lot scared, but I'm doing it anyway. That kind of fear that comes from courage is very different, and it can be related to confidence and fear coexisting compared to when there's just fear, no confidence, lots of insecurity, lots of doubt. So I do want to say that as well. Like, I think if we're leveling our confidence all the time, like we will do things that inspire fear. I can speak for myself. I feel scared, like kind of often if I'm challenging myself enough, because I'll do something new that is like, okay, I honestly don't know how it's going to turn out because it's new, but I'm going to trust and I'm going to do it anyway. And that's the kind of fear that I think is good to engage with.
It's a very good point. Thanks, actually, for pointing out this. I think it's very good. And it plays a little bit also anxiety. When used for this reason with a lot of confidence, can really push you kind of to a limit and perhaps to explore more. Exactly what you said. it's good because sometimes we do also tend on giving to some kind of emotions, like good emotions, bad emotions, which I love what you just said, because then it puts the emotion kind of like on a neutral level, and then it depends how you balance them out and how you use them, and it becomes like kind of like a gradual combination of many factors together.
Yes.
So fear is not always fear. It's not always bad fear. Anxiety is not always just bad anxiety.
It's part of survival. It's important to have some stress.
Exactly, because it's connected to your nervous system. Therefore, when you have that little bit of anxiety and you go on stage with that anxiety, but it's not the generalized anxiety which makes you panic, but it's that
Yes.
anxiety of like that your nervous system reacts in a way that you're ready. You're ready to attack, you're focused, and it pushes like you on a biological phase
Yes.
where you actually good on performing. And of course, it's all about the balance. It's like how much you
Yes.
have of that, and is if something that takes over completely the performance, or is just happening just right before, and then you manage to go on and experience your own dancing and your own performance. It's good. It's good to talk about this. I like it.
I
Well, I
think that's why
totally agree. Go
sometimes
ahead.
I prefer to like jump into something. Oh, you have this new part, or you're gonna do that show that you've never rehearsed. And I feel like it's almost better than over rehearsing and then like freaking out about it. I kind
Yeah,
of like that state.
actually, me too. I love this point, Francesco, because I think it's so important to help normalize that we are emotionally complex in our being, in our experience of life. And I know for myself, when I was recovering from being so anxious every time I was going to perform, I actually needed to stop making my goal to be calm because that was just so far away. And then I ended up realizing that even to this day, my goal is not to be calm. My goal is to be focused and confident. And also, along with that, I will feel nervous, but I know myself now. I know that, well, it's also not just me, it's just how humans work. Like you said, a certain level of nervousness comes from increased cortisol and adrenaline and a few other things in our bodies, and that's actually really good because I
Exactly.
even noticed it every time I do a podcast or a speech or a performance. I felt a little nervous even before I got on this call, not because I was scared it was going to be bad, but it was just like I wanted to focus and I was excited about it. And also there's this like every conversation is different and that's fun. How is it going to go? And that does bring up nervousness in my body, but I've learned to make space for that and to realize it's not a bad thing at all. And then when I stopped framing it as a bad thing, I realized, wait, I'm able to enjoy these conversations or my performances so much because after the initial jitters, there's like this deep focus that happens. And it's
Mhm.
very different than things I do when I'm not nervous. I can be focused, but there's like a different level of flow and focus when there was a little bit of nervousness before. So I think it's cool
Right.
to acknowledge that.
Yes. Yes.
To another point, I have a question about, what we're talking about, these are very personal things that everybody they're very individual and everybody needs to, or has their own approach to them and needs to go through their own journey. But do you have some advice to, let's say, I don't know, the directors or the directors, the ballet masters who kind of create the environment that we spend our lives in? What are some things that they can do to provide a better environment that would encourage more confident dancers and less of the pits and more of the balanced sort
Yes.
of
I
thing?
have so many thoughts on this. As I
Great.
think we all do, we've all worked with many different personalities and I'm sure experienced environments that feel like they just make it so hard to perform at the level you want to. And it feels like a active fight to show up and focus and be confident. And I just wish it weren't that way. Of course, it's not that way everywhere. Good. But something I want every teacher or director to know is that, yes, standards are good. Being straightforward, that's good. Being clear in your communication, great. Yes, we want to be excellent. We don't need to just be like, the answer isn't just like, be so nice and let people do whatever they want. Like, I feel like sometimes environments now that are trying to not cause damage have swung so far in this direction of like, tell everyone they're amazing and like, you're all beautiful and don't give them, like, be very tiptoe around everything. And I work with some dancers who are in environments like that, and their issue is, I don't trust what my director is saying because it's just all fluff. But then there are still casting decisions that are being made that aren't lining up with you telling me I'm just doing so well, no problems. So that doesn't work either. But I will say, so many dancers where they experience a lot of damage, so to speak, or not so to speak, it's just damage, is in environments where directors or teachers, choreographers believe that fear is the most effective way to get good results out of people. It's really not. It's really not. So you can have a standard and draw a line and say, I need you to, okay, hey, you didn't show up knowing the choreography, dancer, this rehearsal. I need you to know it next time. Okay? Thank you. You can be direct, but when leaders, they communicate, whether it's conscious or subconscious, unintentional, when they communicate in a way that says, I don't trust you to do the right thing. I need to like scare the best performance out of you, or I need to use mind games in order to keep you on your toes that's the worst. So I just want to tell everyone, the Pygmalion effect is something every leader should be aware of. Everyone. What the Pygmalion effect is it is a psychological phenomenon that's been observed where essentially a leader in the room, whatever their level of belief and expectation is in the dancers or the subordinates, the students, whomever are beneath them, that is the level those students, dancers, whomever, that's what they will rise to. Now, some teachers take that in a kind of distorted way. They'll be like, well, okay, I'm going to expect perfection. And so then everyone will be perfect. But that's not actually what this theory suggests. It means like your level of belief in them, what you believe they're capable of, what you believe their potential is. That comes out even if you don't speak it directly. It comes out in your behaviors. And that's what the people who are under your leadership, they will start to act out what you believe about them. And that is such a powerful thing to know. Like, for example, when I was under the direction of that teacher who she used so many fear tactics and public humiliation to scare people into excellence. And for me, it was so hard for me. And I saw that because I wasn't meeting her expectations, I saw her belief in me lower. Like seemed to believe that I wasn't capable and she couldn't trust me. And because I felt that from her, I was constantly trying to prove myself, but I was so scared of her that it's like I couldn't, even though I wanted to. So I think to summarize this, if the proactive things that leaders can do are do your best to really give your dancers a sense of trust. Actually, the more you communicate, even in subtle ways, I know you'll get that next time. Or I know we have a few rehearsals. Keep focusing on this. It'll happen. That means so much to dancers compared to, we've done this 2 times already. What's going on? So if you can communicate trust, usually you will see in a period of time that dancers, their ability starts to come out because you've created an environment of trust. Now, again, you could still have standards. Some people stop earning a certain level of trust. I do understand that. Like if a dancer genuinely stops putting in effort, it's fair to have a conversation with them about that. But the other thing I will say is kind and clear communication. I wish all leaders did this. The mind games, I don't know if they always happen intentionally. I'm sure they don't. but a lack of very clear communication where it's like you say what you mean and you mean what you say.
Mm,
Causes dancers to spend so much of their lives wondering, what was that eye contact about? They looked at me and then they looked away, and it was a weird facial expression. What did it mean? It's just like it consumes us sometimes because we feel like there's something they want to say, but they're not saying it. So if there was just clear, kind communication to where dancers knew that, hey, if you had something to say to me, you would say it. And if not,
right.
okay.
Yes.
I think that would eliminate so much stress.
No.
Thank you very much for what you've said. I cannot appreciate this more. We have been having, or I have been having a lot of conversations about similar topics recently.
Yeah.
I believe that it also changes the way I want to approach work. Like there's a difference between intrinsic motivation and extrinsic motivation.
Yes.
And it feels like when there is no trust, when there is only the fear being used, like the only motivation I have is like, I literally have to do this, otherwise I'll be punished. And I feel like then I don't want to do anything because it's just, I feel powerless, and I feel like all those accomplishments are not mine, so to say, even though the accomplishments will end up being the same. The way to get there feels so much worse for some reason. So
Yeah.
I've just been having these thoughts, and I want to hear your opinion on it.
These thoughts so many times. Sometimes I actually want to just stop the rehearsal and tell people, I want to work hard, right? I want
Exactly.
to do a good job, right?
Exactly. It feels like, yeah, no, totally.
For me, yeah.
Yeah, you're like,
I'm laughing, Franci, because I see us in one rehearsal together.
Yeah, of course. I mean, you know what I mean. No, but for me also, it's one thing that perhaps, and I don't know if it's happening already but I think it should be a good practice. It's what sometimes therapists and, psychologists and psychotherapists, they do is supervision. It is good to have, I think, for leaders, for dance teachers, for ballet masters, rehearsal directors, whoever. First of all, is to learn about leadership, because it's a lot about that. When you have like 10, 20, 30 people to manage, you need to know something about leadership and how to organize a group of people and how to work with a group of people. So first is that. And second is like supervision, meaning that when sometimes, because it happens sometimes that you have a hard time, you have a harsh time, and things are complicated, you see things are not rolling as you wish to have someone that could be a therapist, could be a coach, could be someone that you can talk to and just say like, hey, I need to do this. I'm having these problems with my students, with my dancers, with the team I'm working with, my staff. Can you break it down with me? Can you tell me what can I do? How can I approach this? And I think this is not happening enough. It's somehow, this is also for me part of being confident. When you're confident, then you don't know it all. And you are open to ask for help and say like, I recognize I don't manage this as much as I would like to. And instead of getting frustrated and start being mean with the dancers, I'm going to talk to the dancer first, trying to understand what is the issue, and then also try myself to find help and supervision with someone who can help me through this. And I think this is not perhaps enough. And I wish it would start happening.
I so agree. I know. Yeah. Supervision, and you're right. Humility, teachability, and confidence, they go together. Insecurity makes us not seek help because we feel we need to prove that we're doing a good job, that we know what we're doing. Confident people can admit, I have more to learn. Help me, without making it this mean, like, oh my gosh, I'm bad at my job, whatever. Like, yeah, and I totally agree. Everyone who leads people should study leadership as a part of their job. It's a skill. It's a skill. And that's why organizational behavioral psychology, that's why it exists, to help
Love it.
leadership. So that would be great. And there are so many books too. Like, people could do this for.
Yeah, I mean, one of my guru is Simon Sinek, which you probably know, or Adam Grant. Simon Sinek and Adam Grant, also Renee Brown. I think the three of them combined together For me, I just eat them for breakfast. Like I love to watch their videos, to listen their talk, and it's so inspiring and it's so fulfilling, I think, because there is so much, and they also, they're really stressed, especially some cynic on this role of leadership. How leadership sometimes you just happen to be in those roles, but no one teaches you how to be there and how to keep working in that role and how to get better at that role. Because sometimes you just get promoted and you get in those leadership positions, and then you're like, okay, now I'm here, and now what?
Yeah.
So, and in dance, this happens a lot because we know how it works. You're in a ballet company, and then you grow. Maybe perhaps you become a soloist or a principal, or you study management or something like this, and then you end up in those like principal roles, direction
Not
roles.
even sometimes. Not even sometimes.
Not even sometimes. But and so it's good. That's all I want to say. It's like it's great if you get there. Lucky you. We're all happy. We're all excited. We wish you the best. But please do some learning about those topics. We know you know probably a lot about dance. I love this, but it's not enough. It is not enough just to know about dance. You need to know about other things too, which is very important.
One of the questions that we wanted to ask, we could possibly finish in that, was how do you balance your content creation or this other part of your life with dancing? And if you can just say a few words about that and maybe wrap it up, what your mission is, what kind of you aim to do.
What legacy do you want to leave?
Yeah.
Yes, I'd love to answer that. So how I balance currently like dancing with my business is it's so easy for me because my business is dance related. And so I love getting to spend time dancing. Like in the mornings, I often go to a dance class and then I work the rest of the day, which is such a blessing to be able to have a life that I get to curate because it's my own business and I can control my own hours. And my dancing actively inspires thoughts about content I can create, or it also challenges me to continue to test my own skill set and to be able to relate to the dancers that I work with. So it actually makes my work better and I love it. So for the legacy I really want to create with the Confident Dancer, it's several things, but I hope that, my wish for dancers is really that they will be able to see themselves through the lens of the 80-year-old them who can't dance anymore, but then also the 6-year-old them who would be so amazed and proud because of all that they've done and all that they can do. I think if we're able to see ourselves through those lenses, it really does change how we treat ourselves, how we feel towards ourselves, and how much we really appreciate what we have now. Because honestly, that is a regret of mine from when I was dancing full time. I do wish that I had the perspective at that time to really, really appreciate what I could do and to take that seriously and to really, really enjoy it. And I had a lot of joy in my career. So it's not like I spent most of it hating myself, but still I think, wow, there are videos I watch of myself back then and I know that I'm so impressed now, but I wasn't as impressed then as I am now, So I wish more dancers could appreciate. I want dancers to be able to appreciate what they have, to enjoy it, and to share it with confidence, like the gift that it is. I want dancers to realize that they don't have to be perfect to still have a lot of value to share. And that value is something for them to enjoy, but then also to have joy in sharing it generously. I think if a lot more of us had that mentality, we would enjoy our own dancing a lot more and we wouldn't feel all the stress and the pressure that comes from this. I have to prove I'm more than I am. Well, I understand it, but that's something really, really simple that I hope to leave a legacy of. In addition to dancers just owning what they have and being a lot less apologetic. Like, y'all, can we stop apologizing for like who we are and what we have to give? Just own it, you guys, and stop apologizing. Okay, I'll end on that.
Great.
Kirsten, thank you so, so much. Like, it was such an enriching conversation. And I'm really
Yes.
happy that we reconnected again and I got to introduce you to my friends. And I think you have something really special to share.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Thank
I
you very
was so
much.
Kirsten.
invigorated by this conversation. So thank you so much for having
Likewise, likewise. I also feel more rich. Thank you for all you have said. I think the listeners, our listeners, they will really appreciate this episode. And yeah, thank you so much.
My
Thank you.
pleasure. All my best to you. Take care.
Take
Thank
care.
you.
Bye. Thank
Ciao.
you.
Goodbye.
Thank you for listening.
Thanks for listening to today's episode of Kunst and All. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, and now on YouTube. Make sure to follow us on @Kunst and All for more updates and behind-the-scenes content. We'd love to hear your thoughts, so feel free to reach out and share your feedback. We are Lorenzo, Nastasia, Francesco, and Martin. Thanks again for joining us. Until next time, stay kunstig.